Hello friends, it is Jordan once again at the Monastic Academy, or Maple, and it's a beautiful day outside. As you can see, there's some clouds, but it's nice and sunny, and I'm hiking up, hiking down Mount Hadley right now. Mount Hadley is right near Maple. It's a really nice hike. And I thought I'd make use of this opportunity to, get outside, of course, since it's such a beautiful day, but also make another video. This video will be about spiritual friendships at Maple. And it's really not just about Maple, but spiritual friendships on this path, the holy life, which is something that the Buddha said is the whole of the holy life. There's a Sutra in which Ananda asks the Buddha, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but basically whether friendships is, or friendship, singular, is half the holy life, to which the Buddha replied, not so, Ananda, not so. Friendship is the whole of the holy life. Again, I probably didn't quote it exactly, but it's so important on this path. It's just indispensable. It's hard to get by alone. You really need friends along the way, companions who are there to, in the sutra it said something like realize or practice the noble eightfold path. And I can put a link to that sutra in the description below, so you can take a look at it if you really wish. But I will be talking about my own experiences with this at Maple, because this was just really life-changing for me. Before coming to Maple, I didn't really, I'll just say in high school, it was really difficult for me to make friends in school. And I only really had one friend who I'm still friends with. But I had this really unhealthy kind of relationship with this whole thing about friendships. Sorry about the wind. It might be a little difficult to hear me right now. I wish I brought my microphone so I could just clip it onto my shirt or something and it just cut out the wind noise. But anyways, I didn't really know what a real friendship was like in school. I was just very, very lonely, and I hate to say this, but it's just kind of guaranteed that something like loneliness, this deep loneliness in you, will just make it very hard for you to be a good friend, because from my experience, I would say that so many of my interactions with friends are just unintentionally, I have to say, about me just wanting and wanting and wanting, just sucking value. And it's always about me feeling good or feeling heard or feeling validated, or it's all about turning that interaction or that friendship into like a means to my self-interested, self-centered, selfish ends or aims. And it's really painful to be in this situation, to be conditioned this way, to always be taking and taking and taking rather than giving and giving and giving. And I've always thought, this was before I came to Maple, but I'd always thought that a friendship was merely just hanging out and, friends validating each other's feelings or opinions, or, there can be disagreement, I'm sure. I'm sure that I wasn't thinking like we have to agree on everything, but it was more about us just, as my friend likes to say, the way he would phrase it is we're basically sucking each other's value when we are hanging out with each other. And I would actually use that phrasing. I think it's pretty accurate. We really are just sucking each other's value rather than really, the way friendship is at Maple is about us pushing one another, about us, really correcting each other's faults. Not necessarily fixing each other. We're not hating each other. We're far from it. We just love each other. This is this unconditional love that we were striving to realize, to give one another. But it's just we hate to see each other just stuck in these unhealthy patterns that just, it's really all about realizing enlightenment, attaining enlightenment, being liberated from suffering. And it's these unwholesome, unhealthy patterns that keep us from realizing that, from living up to our potential, so to speak. And if you come to a place like Maple and you aren't used to that, if you aren't used to this whole culture of giving each other direct feedback and correcting each other, then, that's based on the view, based on any view, such like what I just mentioned earlier about maybe you believe that a friendship should be about validating each other's experiences and comforting one another rather than pushing each other out of our comfort zone. Well, you're likely to have a very hard time at Maple if you are constantly resistant to being corrected, for example, or given feedback, or basically if you're stuck in your own patterns and a friend comes along and says, hey, and they basically hold up a mirror to your face, to your mind, and you flinch and say, like, that's not being a good friend. So this is what is important to realize when you come to a place like Maple or a monastery, and people, out of sincere compassion, are doing their best to be a good friend. You know, one way I like to think about it, by the way, I'm not sure how much of what I just said made any sense. Maybe I went through all that a bit too quickly, but one thing I'd like to add is that one way that I like to look at friendships is, you know, a good teacher who is also a good friend they love you so much that because they hate seeing you suffer, they are willing to push you out of your comfort zone, because it's right within your comfort zone where you're clinging to your own suffering. And like a really good friend recognizes that and will say, hey, like, stop that. Stop causing yourself suffering. And you'll also see that you causing your own suffering also has a ripple effect, and it causes suffering for others as well. And it's just so relieving to know that, wait a second, I don't have to do this to myself. And even more inspiring is I don't have to do this to others. I don't have to take my personal stuff out on other people. It really, I mean, at some point on the spiritual path, you really have to face the fact that, like, I've done great harm. There's an unhealthy kind of shame that is associated with Western culture. Like, oh, I did this, I'm such a bad person, and then you become identified with your mistakes. But no, Buddhism says cultivate this healthy shame where you see your mistakes and maybe you even feel gratitude for someone, or maybe even yourself, telling yourself that, wow, I've done so much harm. And I mean, when you train in this way, you want to get to a point where your own mistakes, your own shame actually leads to confidence and a sense of, like, I know, like, I'm causing suffering and I know how to get out of suffering. Thank God there's a way to get out of suffering. I will do it. I will do whatever it takes to get out of my suffering. Because once you know these Four Noble Truths, not just the first one, not just the second one, not just the third one, but this fourth noble truth of this way, this path leading to the end of suffering. Once you have an actual technique, like following the breath or whatever it is that gets you out of this prapancha, which I talked about in another video, in case you don't know what prapancha means. But when you have a technique that actually works, that gets you out of that prapancha, gets you to stop clinging to your suffering, then that should fill you with all the more confidence of how to stop suffering. Like, it should fill you with such confidence and relief. Like, it's amazing that there's a way to put an end to suffering. If there wasn't a way to bring about the cessation of suffering, then the Buddha would never have been a Buddha. And I wouldn't be here making this video, because I'm just another one of the many, many students of the Buddha. And I think it would be great for us all to be this kind of student, to help one another on this path of how to truly be a good friend. And so, to get more into the specifics on how to be a good friend, which is to say, what not to do in order to be a good friend, the 5 precepts in Buddhism are good guidelines. They're good guidelines to follow. So I'm just going to run through them really quickly. So the first one is no killing. Second one is no stealing. No committing sexual misconduct. No committing false speech, which is like no lying, no speaking harshly, no gossiping or slandering, no idle chatter, no speaking at the wrong time. And I think that's basically it for false speech. But also the last precept is no taking drugs or intoxicants, because drugs and intoxicants cloud the mind, lead to poor judgment, and can lead to breaking any one of the other 4 precepts, maybe multiple. But these 5 precepts are very, very important. And not only that, it's not only these 5 precepts that matter, but when you train at a place like Maple, there are some other qualities to value. For example, a good friend will not abandon their friends. When I can share a story about this one instance at Maple. This was back in 2023. We were all doing work practice. Work practice is basically just mainly physical work. It doesn't have to be like outdoor physical work like shoveling or raking or whatever. It could be other stuff that's indoors, or it could be anything. Anything could be a work practice. But basically what work practice is like meditation. You know, meditation is not just something that you do on a cushion or in a chair, sitting, but you can be meditating anywhere else, no matter what you're doing. You could turn anything into a meditation. And it's a really great opportunity to bring the practice that you cultivate, you know, when you're sitting, into the world. It's basically integrating awakening and responsibility here at Maple. If you're familiar with those 2 components of the training. So there was one time in 2023 when we were all outside, like right outside the main building, doing work practice. And before we started, we were given instructions, and I was too much in my head, too lost in thoughts to even be paying attention. That was my bad. I should have been listening, because what followed was the person who was giving instructions, the B&G lead, when she was done explaining what we would be doing, she just mentioned that we would be in functional speech, which is noble silence, if you're familiar with that. If not, it basically just means no talking. If you have to, like if it's absolutely necessary, then like whisper or something so no one can hear. But functional speech is not quite strict like that. It's only for so if you have something important to say, you could say it out loud, but use as few words as possible and see if there's a way to communicate without using words if you can. But otherwise, it's fine to use a few words to communicate. So we were all given instructions on what to do, and then we were told that it would be done in functional speech, as work practice is done in functional speech. And because I had not really paid attention fully, I was sort of lost. I was stuck in this state of confusion. And so it was about time to get started, and everyone started throwing themselves into the work practice. And I was basically the only one, it seemed like, who didn't know what we were doing. And so I was just standing there sort of dumbfounded, and my supervisor, who was the steward manager at the time, that's what it was called back in the days. We were called stewards, or apprentices, as it was known before then. Now, stewards are called kindergartners. But anyways, the steward manager saw me just standing there, not really being engaged in the work practice, and she motioned for me to get going. She made like a chop chop motion with her hands. And I just sort of freaked out because I had already been in this state of confusion. And when she did that, I just freaked out, and I was filled with fear. And then that fear turned into anger. And a minute later, I just stormed off and went right into the main building. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. And I'm like in the main building, and the steward manager, I don't know if anyone saw me storm off and go into the main building, but apparently it seemed like the steward manager noticed, and she came in and found me, and she asked me, like, what's going on? Why are you in here? And I was honest with her. I told her that, as I had planned to do, I was so overwhelmed that I had decided to just sit and meditate and sit with the emotions that had come up. And she and one person who had overheard our conversation were basically telling me that what I was doing was basically me running away from myself, hiding in my own little bubble of my own comfort zone. As I mentioned earlier, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You can't be hiding in your comfort zone. Otherwise, how else are you going to grow? And I was just so overwhelmed at the moment that I felt like I couldn't do that. And she kept on trying to get me out there. I came up with another excuse, which was really a bullshit excuse. But she tried to get me out there one more time, and I said a final no. And then she basically left me there inside the main building, and someone else had to come in and get me. And this interaction was a little bit more accommodating. The person who came in, and the second person who came in to try and get me out there, gave me some accommodations. Basically, I was allowed to be doing the work practice on the perimeter of the area where the work practice was taking place. And basically, I was acting like a child. And so I ended up just agreeing to those terms, agreeing with those accommodations. I went back out there, and to my surprise, I actually felt really good. And I would say I learned two things from that experience. One, which is what I just said, it felt really good to go back out there and not be running away from myself, to be just there, present with whatever needed to be done. Number two, this was the second thing that I learned. What I had just done, namely running away or storming off and into the main building was basically me abandoning my friends. And it hit me when I realized that. I mean, no one said that to me. No one said, you are abandoning your friends. No one tried to guilt trip me or whatever. I just was faced with that, and it hit me. Damn, I really just abandoned my friends. And in fact, I guarantee I was in tears having realized that. It just really hit me. Like, I'm harming myself and I'm harming my dear friends who obviously care about me so much that they have to push me outside of my comfort zone. And, you know, when my steward manager kept on trying to get me outside and I just kept saying no, yes, I was disappointing her. I was disappointing the community. But even more so, I was truly just disappointing myself. I am causing myself so much suffering right now, and I'm also not being a good friend at all. This doesn't feel good. I am filled with a sense of shame. Good news, I have the opportunity to turn that shame into something that I can purify. I can purify that shame that is there. So, yeah, that's an important quality of a friendship. Do not abandon your friends. Be the one that others can rely on. It's important to show up for your friends, even when you may not feel like it sometimes. It's okay if you physically can't for some medical or health reason, of course. It's fine to not show up in that instance, but if you're capable of showing up, and if your friends are really in need of your help, then you shouldn't even think twice about it. Just go. Be a good friend. So it's so important just to be a good friend. Don't abandon your friends. Also, one other thing, commitments. This is so important. If you make a commitment, it's so important to fulfill it, to keep that commitment and not break it. This is sort of related to not abandoning friends, but it's something else to mention. Keeping commitments, not making it all about you. Commitments are so important. So what else could I say? I think I've really covered what I have learned, at least what I have learned from, or what I've learned about friendships from the training at Maple. And going back to the 5 precepts, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be good to be friends with, a junkie or a drug dealer or whatever. If the intention is wholesome, then it's fine, because actually a bodhisattva is willing to be right in the midst of the suffering to liberate all beings. So technically a bodhisattva might choose to walk into a bar, but not with the intention of indulging or getting drunk, or the bars are often a place to socialize. It wouldn't be about getting some approval or whatever. If a bodhisattva is going into a bar, it would be for the sake of those in the bar, basically to liberate those who are suffering. So, I'm almost back to the main building. And I don't think I have anything more to add. But I wish all of you a lot of clarity and happiness and joy on your path. And please consider, who are your friends? Who are those people who you are hanging out with on a regular basis? Are they uplifting you? Are they really challenging you, pushing you out of your comfort zone for the sake of your own personal spiritual growth on this path in the direction of liberation? Or are they just sucking value, if you know what I mean? And I know that's a bit of a blunt way of putting it, but I think for me at least, it really helps me. It's a clear expression. It helps clarify what is really happening in this relationship. And there's no sense of shame in me, no unhealthy kind of shame that would lead to me being like, oh, I'm just sucking other people's value. I'm such a bad person. And then I just go into this, misery. I just get sucked or stuck or whatever you want to call it in this misery. Ideally, on this path, you should be making good use of that shame that comes up and being like, wow, thank you, friends. Thank you, universe, for holding up this mirror and making me see clearly what I'm doing to myself and what I am doing to others. And I have this path, I have this practice that is the thing that leads to the end of suffering. So I hope you can all I hope you get a lot out of this. I hope this really helps you get a sense of what a true spiritual friendship is like. And if you don't believe any of this, well, that's fine. But I would encourage you to really be mindful of how your interactions with your friends, how your friendships are really, are they adding value to your life or not? This is something for you to investigate and look into. Thank you for watching.